This is my frame assembly station for now. What I'm doing, since it's too costly to order frames with the wax, what they call full foundation, I show you how I do it. Because I know how to do it all night long. All right, so full foundation, normally for these, what they call medium frames for the honey supers. This is where the bees put the honey. They usually sell that size wax foundation, which is a sheet, and it's got wires in it already. So basically what you do, you just, I order the frames, or I have the frames already, and put there's a groove up here, and I slide the foundation in there, and then right here, I don't know if you can see it. Right now it's stapled vertical, but when you're putting foundation, you staple it flat so it holds the foundation, and with the wire and all that, and then the bees will draw it out just like this frame. Okay, but that costs a lot of money when you order those type of wax foundation. So what I do, I order the large wax foundation for the deep frames like this. Well, they're cut right now, but you see how you see the embossing of the comb? They do that at the factory. They press it, and they emboss the comb shapes in there, so the bees will draw from that. But it's a full sheet for the bigger frames like this. For the bigger frames. These big frames are the ones where the queen lays. But what I do, I cut them in strips like this. Actually, I can get 3 pieces out of this one. So a whole sheet that comes to fit in these big frames, I cut them into little strips. That way, that's a finished product right there. You see the little, what we call these starter strips. All right, and then without the wire, because if I order the comb, the foundation, this is foundation with wires in it already, it can get pretty costly. So I put fishing line. You see the fishing line? It's a little bit more time consuming, but you're supposed to do this in the winter for spring. Kaya sa niya. This type of work is supposed to be done December, January, or sooner for the following year. But since I threw my back out, I got behind, and this is how they do it. So what the bees will do now, they'll start this strip and draw it out. And if you feed them during a flow, which the flow should be starting soon, I use these nucleus colonies over there to draw these out. So you see the little feeder bottles on top of them? Every few days I could put one of these in there, and they'll draw it out. It'll take them about a week, but they'll finish this completely. All right, and then so what that does, it'll ultimately be like this when it's complete. And then these I take out to the country where my honey producing colonies are, and they don't have to waste any energy or as much energy or sacrifice honey to make comb. All they have to do is fill this with honey. These girls are sacrificing their time and energy to make drawn comb, which is what this is. But since these colonies are not honey producers, I just use them for labor. You know, like slave labor. that is what I do. So I'll show you how I do it. I don't know if you, I'm gonna have to put this camera further back. Don't mind the roosters. They're gonna be mincemeat. All right, so these are the honey seepers. So what I do, they've been cleaned. They've been soaked in bleach water for 24 hours or 2 days. And if there was sunshine out, the sun will dry them out really quick, and all this will be more crispier, so it's easier to clean. So you clean it like that. Doesn't have to be perfect. The bees do all the work. All right. Then Kayaseng. Can I see how it's moving too much like that? So what I do, I add another staple because you want them really strong. Because when they get full of honey, they're heavy. They get really heavy. See how nice and stiff that is? Because when you're pulling this frame out of the honey super, they're so heavy that they can separate. Some of these are not glued. The ones that are up there are glued and stapled, so I can pull them. If they get stuck, you can pull them and they're not going to come apart. So these, they will come apart if you don't give them an extra reinforcing. So now, what you do, some of them have holes already on the side, but the ones that don't, you give them an extra hole right here. That's going to be for the fishing line. Just like that. That's why you start in December, because this is very time consuming. Just the 8 that I did up there took me about 4 hours, but I'm doing other work. I'm not just doing this. I'm bouncing around, painting, putting boxes together, and then I come back and do these. So then you get these little tiny penny nails. You're gonna be soup in a minute if you don't shut up. My rooster's crowing because he's jealous of the other rooster that's on the other side of the fence there. And yeah, they're competing. Every evening they do this, and all day. So one of these roosters got to go. I just haven't decided which one yet. So these are frames that were used last year, so that's why they got staples. So I'm taking these old staples out. I hope I'm in frame. Yeah, I'm in frame. So the bleach cleaned this out pretty good, and the old wax comes out really easy, like sawdust, really. All right, so now take this, take that staple out, sharp knife, run it through there, run it in the, there's a groove in there. Hi, Spirit Airlines. Yep, the planes fly right over my house. All right, then make sure it's not the long staple. Make sure it's the short staple. Aha, just what I suspected. I'm vlogging.
Okay. Lucy, do you want her out here?
Yeah, she's fine.
Okay.
When she gets cold, she'll stand by the door. And it's getting dark, so she likes being out here when it's time to do some rat chasing. Wax is on.
Are you gonna go to the store later?
I don't know if I'm gonna go tonight. Depends how I feel. What do you need?
Cigarette.
Oh. You can go down the street.
Where?
Food Lion.
Yeah.
I gotta pick up some bread up there. So now the fishing line goes in here. See the nails? I got nail here and nail here right next to the holes. So this frame is like this. I start from the top, work my way down here, come behind to this hole. It creates an X. And when it gets dark, you can't see. It's getting dark, so my eyes are starting to give out. But I really want to get this done because I plan on taking these out to the country tomorrow. Because those colonies in the country, they are doing really, really well. They're growing so fast. And if you don't give them extra boxes, they will swarm. So basically, this is what a beekeeper does all the time. He's trying to keep up with the honey producing boxes. Because they will swarm. They grow so fast, and if you don't have the equipment already prepared and ready months before the honey flow, then this is what's happening. You're chasing your tail, trying to keep up with them. So that is complete. So in the country they have honey supers already that was drawn from last year. Plus the ones that don't have the medium size like this, when I ran out, I just put another box, a big box, with big frames like this for them to put honey in the big frames. And which they do when the flow is really strong, they will fill those big frames with honey. So that's a small one. And I believe that's it for the small. Now I'm going to do fishing lines for these. These are different. These are not going to get starter strips because you see what I did to the cleat? That little cleat, I stapled it vertical and then waxed it. I have a crock pot with melted beeswax. And I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but it's got, I use a paintbrush and apply the beeswax on that vertical. So basically all it needs is the fishing line, and the bees will start drawing their wax from this wooden cleat that's dipped in wax. That's one way of saving money, but they will only draw this out if the bees are, if there's a lot of bees in the box, and if you're feeding them and there's a flow. So since the flow is just beginning here shortly, should start pretty soon, about a week from now maybe. And I got these sugar bottles on them. I can stick them every few days, boom, just like this, without the starter strips, and they will draw it out. Frames, drawn comb frames for beekeepers is very valuable. Hey mama, what you doing? So these are all my honey supers for now. These are all done. These are all done. I got them mixed up a little bit. Starter strip, vertical, strips, full sheet. That's a full sheet. So they're all mixed up. Oh, okay, I see. These are my new boxes that I painted and should them. So now I need eight frames plus 8 frames. That'll be 16. Oh, here's another one. But this box, something's wrong with this box. So I'm moving these. See, this one's got all kind of dirt, but they'll clean that out. So that's going in there. That's going in there. Remember I was telling you about the wire? This one is probably a year or 2 years old. They didn't. I never got around to drawing it and giving it to the bees. But see the wires going up and down? Those are the sheets I was telling you about. Very expensive. A box of 10 of these can cost you like $25. That's why I do the little tiny strips. But they're gonna see how they started drawing it this side. I don't know if you can see it in an angle here, right there. But when it comes, it's just flat like that with the stamp. So this is going to the country. Let them draw that out, or I can give it to these girls here. So that's 3 frames. This one I probably don't have to do any much to, because see they've already started to draw that last year like that. So that's going in here. This one is pathetic. That is too crispy. So I'll probably redo this one. When wax get really that old, it gets crumbly like this. So I'll use this frame and redo it. And then these got wax. Vertical. Now what I can do is try to repair this box. There's something wrong with this box. The frames don't sit right. What's happening is, see how it's falling apart? It's water rot. So this will probably just be repaired the best I could, repainted, and then use it for something else. I don't think I'm going to use it for super. Probably use it for like a feeder when I'm feeding them. Let's say this is the honey. Let's say this is the colony. Let's say this is the colony. And I'm feeding them, instead of the water bottle, I'm using a board with a screen in the middle, so I can put a jar. When you do that, you got to cover it, because if the sun hits it, and they're not drinking it fast enough, then the syrup will turn mold, black mold inside. So you put one of these and then the lid. Kind of protects it from the sun. Anyway. So that concludes the presentation.